Afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. I'm actually coming from our hub. So you don't have a virtual background for me today. I'm delighted to be back in our hub and doing doing the crowdcast from my old environment. And today we're welcoming my old friend James, who was on the show
Hi.
last year as well. Thank you for coming back.
Oh, Wendy, thanks for having me back. It's really nice.
Oh.
And so I'm calling you from my environment too. I don't have great backgrounds.
But you have a very cool guitar in Lego. You've got now.
Lego
This is the
guitar.
thing. I was just
Yeah,
saying how
yeah.
small that is, but if you can pick that up and just show a wee bit of scale, it's about that size, and you
So you can
built it
see
in
how
Lego,
big.
James.
Yes, it's
It's huge.
sometimes it's nice to be a child again, isn't it? And
It is.
no,
But listen to
my
yeah.
wife was a bit surprised when I was building Lego at my desk.
Well, do you know, we've all got to take a wee break from our desks sometimes, so well done.
True,
So,
true, true.
listen, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I wanted to bring James back because I really like his ethos in terms of, looking at sales, bringing the best out of people. And in this time, the market has been so hot, James, hasn't it, for recruiters?
Mad. Yeah.
And we've all had to look at inflation. It was just announced today that it's rocketing up, etc. as well. Salaries are going up, there's pressure everywhere, everyone's wanting recruiters. We've gone from the slow lane to the fast lane so quickly that if you've got a top biller and you've got somebody that's really critical as an employee in your firm, it's so important to get hold of them, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to sort of digest that, and it's a great timing, I think, to tackle this topic as well, because we'll be coming up for renews, annual renewals, looking at in terms of like reviews and career journeys, and looking at motivating your employees to go forward. So though we're focusing this on your top billers, it's really a lot of the ethos that we should be looking at for all of your employees as well.
I think that's really important because it is well and good to look at these people and say, well, I must look after the cream of my crop, but everyone's just as important as each other in a business, aren't they? If you hire the right ones.
Yeah. So I know we laughed when we were doing our planning call because we would still say that we were ex top billers, so we understand the challenges of sometimes, and we can
Yeah,
say this. I feel sometimes your top billers are maybe not the most or the easiest to deal with at certain
yeah.
times. We're a wee bit stubborn, aren't we? We're a bit our way of the highway, etc. But
Uh-huh.
we need to be managed. So talk me through some of the things you're seeing with some of your customers and the companies that you're dealing with in terms of what's the sort of what have you seen in the change in terms of addressing a top biller, a good employee, talking about the reviews and career journeys.
Wow. I think there's nothing's really changed in terms of people and
Mhm.
people's desire and people's ambition. What has changed is the environments that we've been thrown in and out of. Coming having to suddenly work from remotely, then go back to offices and then hybrids and all that sort of stuff. So it's been quite interesting to see how people have managed or are trying to manage that kind of hybrid situation, and how they just bring people into the conversation more regularly.
Are you coaching your owners and business managers at looking at career journeys slightly differently? Are they taking a different approach? And even like that term, just to go through, what do you see as as a career journey? What do you how would you be able to sort of like explain that to our audience?
I think our businesses have become much more aware of the need to be flexible with career and to look at what it looks like. If we go back in time, there was that always the simple thing of you're a consultant, then you worked like you could, and if you were good enough, you became a manager, and if you became good as a manager, you became a director, and it was all very simple. Um, but it negated the fact that people didn't really want to be managers, or some people just wanted to go and bill a lot of. You talk about those kind of high billing consultants who are less the kind of lone wolf side. You go off. You just want to. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to worry about stuff. I don't care about processes. I want to make some money.
Yeah.
How do we continually engage those people and keep their career moving? They're not
Mhm.
just we're just not milking them for fees, but we're looking
Yeah.
after them. And so businesses have got much better at it. And with hybrid working, I think there's another opportunity to look at the flexibility we give people, because people always want time, don't they? We always
Mhm.
we want to earn more and we want to work less. And good billing consultants know that actually working. You've got to put the effort in to get the reward, and so you can't
Mhm.
really cut corners by working. You can try and work smarter, but you've got to work harder at times as well. And so, but yes, the conversations go around that a lot, and have got clients now looking at how do they train mentors? How do we want to, we know we should be giving people different levels of assistance. Some of that's formal classroom style training, some of that's on the desk and one to one, some of that's a kind of a coaching style, and then some need a more of a mentor within the business or brought in externally. So, how do we actually teach our people to mentor others? And there is a decided difference between mentoring and coaching. There can be a lot of crossover, but it's a different style. And so
Can
helping
you
them
give us a
learn
wee
that.
yeah, can you elaborate on that then? How would you explain the differences between mentoring and coaching then?
I think with mentors, you're looking for somebody who's not only going to help you find your best way, but
Mhm.
can draw on their own experience in that role as well, or whatever that might be. With a coach, they don't necessarily. I mean, people may well disagree with me, but they don't necessarily have to have had that previous experience. Where a mentor kind of has a bit of been there and done that, and then a whole lot of right. Let's work out what's best for you. Um, and so that difference is quite nice. And some big businesses, it's very possible to have a series of mentors who work with you on different things. I know back in, it feels like a long time ago when I was with Page Group, but I had four different mentors at one stage,
Wow.
who were all MDs of different parts of the business, and their role was to help with when we identified things that I wanted to work on, or me and my director decided together that it would be, and we found that someone with that background and skill to help with that thing. That's a way of doing it, so a functional mentor or a more general kind of approach. But having someone you can talk to and
Mhm.
someone you can have sensible conversation with is really really important, and I think that's becoming more. There's a massive drive toward looking after the health of our people, and
Mhm.
that old thing of, oh well, they just burnt out. I mean, that should never ever happen. Certainly not anymore, where our awareness of these things is
Yeah.
much greater and better. But also that we look after, um, th- letting them have a voice,
Mhm.
being able to say, actually, this isn't working for me without fear of losing their job, which I think is still instilled in people's minds.
Yeah.
You've got to toe the line, and it can't be different. We're actually, with some conversation, we can find better ways,
Yeah.
and more flexible ways for people.
So I like a few things in there that you said. So I'm just going to take you back into that because I think that mentoring idea and that concept is really good. I relate to it as well. When I was, developing my career as well, it was a completely different, it was a director of construction that actually sort of sat down, but that person
Right.
was a good ex top biller, etc. So I could relate to that and respect that rather
Mhm.
than sort of some of the other people that I might have got coached with in a normal way. I think also what that's really recognizing is that each person in an organization have certain things that they're good at.
Yeah.
And, empowering that person to recognize that their strength is this, and then almost allowing them to teach others their strength. That's really cool, isn't it? Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It
because that,
also gives them that platform that puts them on a bit of a pedestal where they can show
yes,
off a bit,
exactly.
Um, and we all like to be seen as that, the go-to for whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah. So I think when we're challenging sort of because if we can unpick as well what you recognize when in the recruitment game as well is that you're getting to an age or you're getting to a stage, you're good at the job and you've got two careers. Do you continue to be good at the job and
Mhm.
recruiting in larger roles, either going up in the level in terms of seniority of what you're recruiting, or do you start managing as well? And that's really quite a key sort of junction, isn't it, point?
Yeah.
And often I think you've alluded to as well, we do get and we still take one of your top performers and just expect them to be great managers.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, anyone who's been through that transition understands that they are absolutely different things.
Yeah.
But one can help the other. But I still see it. And this is the thing, Wendy, that drives me to a little bit of distraction is that I still see consultants stuck on a desk given a 2-hour chat and told to get on with it. I still see
Mm.
managers made up to manager and they go, right, it's your team, crack on. without any formal help, and when that happened to me, I mean, it's nearly what 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and I look at it and think, I learned a lot by making a lot of mistakes which I didn't need to make.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was only when I had a new director who sat me down and went, right, let me talk to you about individuals and how we work with them. And I thought, wow, it was a light bulb moment, which in hindsight, I think, how stupid was I? But I wasn't. I was focused on
Mhm.
what I was doing,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we still see it. So we've got to give people the tools to learn, and to, putting someone into the role of management without giving them some training on the way up, I think is very, very dangerous. And I am seeing a lot more businesses now saying, right, we've got some people who have potential. We want to start encouraging that kind of the team mindset, thinking around others and how we work together rather than just me making my fees on my desk, and start to evolve that experience to them, give them a new consultant to take under their wing and to
Yeah.
work with, or to help out in training, and bring them into that and get them understanding how people learn differently. There's lots of ways to bring people through without just dumping them in a role and saying, right, good luck.
Yeah.
Here's your badge. Enjoy.
And I'm going to take you back because essentially to that sort of that junction where we decide that that really good top biller maybe isn't the person you want to go forward in a management role, but they may
Yeah.
think that they do. I want to sort of that's a pretty critical junction because that is a point where that recruiter could walk through the walk out the door and go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Can you give some advice as to how you would manage that situation to allow them to understand that there is another route for them and how you sort of mentor them through giving
Well,
them that opportunity?
yeah. Can I push back on that a little bit? Because
Yeah.
I don't think we should come to that junction. If
Okay.
we have businesses where we have managers who work closely with, or team leaders who work closely with their consultants, who are with them weekly, team meetings and stuff, that have weekly one-to-ones, who sit down and understand where they're getting on, what they need, what they help, what we have a proper appraisal system where we're actually not sitting back and going, hey, you made these much and this many calls and God knows what, but actually looking at a little quick of a recap of what we've done, and now what are we doing next? Where are the opportunities for you? Let's talk about how your career is going. Where do you see yourself now? If we could think about where you'd like to move, and so we're having those conversations from a very early stage. So by
Mhm.
the time we're helping someone understand their strengths and getting them to think around where they might want to be,
Mhm.
it might be that they would love to run a desk that actually the ties and the pull on them for having people responsible might just be something that they would naturally hate.
Yeah.
But we can help develop them by involving them in other aspects of our business. They may have some amazing creativity, and we can get them involved in some of the outward marketing stuff we're doing, or the pull, whatever we can. But we can know this, so when we get to that point, we're not stuck with that kind of,
What
are
do I
you
do with
a,
them?
yeah, it just shouldn't come to that.
Yes.
Um, so I think that, and if you do come to that position, then you've really got to almost go back in time and say, start to get to understand. You don't want to give someone a bloody nose and go, well, you thought you were going to be a manager. Well, guess what? You're not.
Yeah.
Because the chances of them staying are, well, especially now where there's too much choice, it was never, you're never going to keep them, unless they're sillily loyal to you.
James, I'm
And
really
people
glad you
aren't.
did push back on that because you're absolutely correct. And that is that sort of whole concept of rather than a review, or it's a review on performance, that career journey ethos, you're absolutely correct, is taking them on a journey with you. So it shouldn't
Yeah.
be that sort of point of what do I do now sort of scenario. So, yeah, thank you for pushing on that back. In terms of the sort of, I suppose, looking at we used to do it in every quarter. Now we've moved to 6 monthly in terms of career journey check-ins.
Mhm.
What are you seeing the sort of trend to be? Because again, being remote working as well, at one point we were told to check in on everybody every day almost. What do
Uh,
you see that sort of communication doing?
um, I'm seeing a lot less than it should be, and most
Okay.
business, so many businesses. And I said, what's your appraisal process? Well, we kind of have a formal system, but we don't really get round to it. And I think that we need to have appraisals can feel cumbersome. The system can, you can try and automate it, and that just makes it inhuman. Um, you need to be spending, say, if managers are spending time weekly with people, if you're at a desk and you're working with them, that's easy to have to listen and to chat and take them out for a coffee when they need it and all the rest of it. Or in the old days, go out on the balcony for a smoke and have a chat. But what we need to do is think, right, well, if we're not with them all the time, when we are with them, we need to spend time with them. If it's remote, then we need to sit and have Zoom conversations where they shut their email and their phones off and they just have a chat with us. But we also need to be conscious of how do we get to engage with them? How do we get to them and be with them? And I
Mhm.
think quarterly is a good time scale because
Mhm.
it comes around in a flash.
Yeah.
But it's still 3 months. It's only 4 times a year that you're sitting and talking to people about where they're at and what they need. And it's nice to be able to kind of tick off the achievements and enjoy those, and also take some time to celebrate them,
Mhm.
and to give those pats on the back and all the stuff that if you teach a dog to sit, you give it a biscuit and it does it again. Humans aren't quite as simple as that, but if we give them a reward for doing well, they kind of like it and they often want to do it again. And I've said this to a lot of vet managers: hand out biscuits,
Mhm.
go and do it, and get your team together when you can. People are getting more comfortable. I was in London taking a client out for dinner last week for the first time in goodness knows how long. The restaurants are packed, people are
Yeah.
out, the place is busy. Get a plate, go out, give them a nice meal together and have a bit of fun,
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
do
what I
the
want to talk about next is that incentivization and all the sort of, and if any of our audience here has been getting back into sort of doing things, we'd love to hear. So post the ideas that you're doing because we used to be one of the best industries to going out and doing all of this. Have you
yeah.
seen that starting to come back at all? Have we got our top month dinners, lunches, etc. coming back? What are you seeing?
Not as much as it should be yet.
Yeah.
People are starting to talk about it though. But I always loved them, and when we talked about being held out as somebody to be, having someone sent to you to have a chat with you about what you do is a wonderful thing. Being taken out of the business and shown off a bit is nice. I think that
Yeah.
people are rewarded by different things. For me, it was always about recognition of my results and my abilities, and I wanted to be known. I wanted to be seen. The money, I always said the money was reward for that. That was secondary to being held up. And often, hopefully for the right reasons. But that stuff it just went out of fashion. People got too cost conscious of it.
Yeah.
We've forgotten that, the best part of a conference is usually the people you meet in the bar afterwards.
Mhm.
That it's the stuff that happens as a result of that, the connections with the human connections we build by having a meal together and a drink, or if people don't drink, so what? Go. One of my clients is taking their team. There's a bowling alley in Bloomsbury Square that they were talking about, wondering if it's still there because I want to go and take the team bowling. And you think, well, it's such a dorky thing for a lot of people, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend huge amounts, but we do need to give time for it. And we're not seeing the kind of let's fly the team to Paris for lunch stuff that we used to get, or here's your holiday in China. Goodness knows that was good stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Will that ever come back? I hope some of it does.
Mhm.
I really do.
Mhm. And in terms of sort of actually planning business plans as well, are you recommending that just now, because this is the time that people will be sort of looking at their figures and sort of like the competitions and rewards that we could be putting in? I think this year it was very conservative. Everybody looked at maybe 6 month plans.
Right.
Do you think that that will continue in terms of that sort of like 6 month plans as well? Or are companies now starting to plan a little bit further ahead?
But business planning is an ongoing thing, isn't it? It's you do your budgets at a certain point of the year, and that's a sensible thing to do. But it needs to be assessed constantly and constantly appraised and changed.
Mhm.
I think that if you're working to a quarterly appraisal system with your consultants, then perhaps you should be thinking about how you keep adjusting on that sort of regularity with your managers and your leaders, and whether you can think about it not in terms of redoing them, but just constant adjustment. So you have effectively an ongoing budgeting process that
Mhm.
refigures, and because things change like hell. I mean, we've gone through one of the biggest changes in recruitment where no one foresaw. And we all talked about the global finance crisis as something we never want to live through again, and then
Mhm.
this has happened, and it just comes out of the blue, and we
Mhm.
need to adapt faster to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
But yes, we do need to, and we do need to be looking at it and thinking, right, well, we do need to budget a sensible amount for having some fun.
Yeah.
And whether that's, I remember back to the, 2000 when there was a bit of a dip, and we didn't have money to spend on stuff. Um, my team thought I was wonderful because I gave them a duvet morning if they did well.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to think of what can I do that doesn't cost me
Didn't
anything
cost me
because I
anything.
can't.
Yeah.
So what do they want? They want to lie in. Right. Let them do it. Let's think of how we can adjust things and make people give them the reward that they're looking for, not the reward we think they should have. I would love to go to a Michelin star restaurant and drink extraordinary wine and finish with armagnacs and what have you, but that's not everybody's thing. And if we have a one size fits all kind of program or mindset, we end up giving people something they don't want.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be a little bit more flexible than that. And if you've got people who are rewarded by that, maybe it becomes an individual thing. Maybe instead of having those, you look at each person and give them set targets around what they might enjoy. It might be a show, it might be a couple of days extra leave, it might be with me in a restaurant. Who knows? But um, if you know your consultants well enough, you know your people, you'll know what drives them and what motivates them,
Yeah.
and you'll know what kind of reward would work for them.
And I think that's so key, isn't it? Because we do have different demographics coming into the workplace, and you
Of
know,
course.
you and I might like that lovely dinner and going getting pissed and having whatever, but that's not everybody's cup of tea.
No,
and
it's
and
not.
and
It's
that's
not.
recognizing that is so important now in terms of tailoring that to your employees, recruiters, etc. as well.
Yeah, and some of the shenanigans that I think of fondly are not. If they're not appropriate, people just don't enjoy that in the same
Yeah.
way. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, there's different. There's. I was talking to a Belgian client. I used the expression "different ways to skin a cat." She looked at me as if absolutely horrified that was.
That you would actually skin a cat.
But there are lots of ways to skin cats, and there are lots of different ways to do things. I think you start with right back to the thing we all know, which is people are individuals and we need to manage them as
Yeah.
individuals. So get a hard handle on what they want and then get the team together and say to them, right, here are our options.
Mhm.
If we achieve X, we can do some of these things. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And as long as it fits with, everybody's thought, then they'll do it and they'll have a great time. And then when you're taking those individuals who are really shining above, whatever motivates them and drives them, that's the thing that you need to use to help them.
And that will mean the most. And I think if we've learned anything from the last couple of years, we have started to operate more as teams. Do you want to, what does everybody want to do about an office? Are you looking to move back on a 2 day or a 3 day? What works for you? What works for us? So
Yeah.
let's not lose that and take it into other areas of the business as well.
Absolutely agree. I mean, when you talk about that individual, I'm sort of catching myself thinking, right, well, okay, we're doing individual incentives, but
Mhm.
I remember one of the businesses that I worked for that they changed that from being everyone away to here's your voucher, do what you want with it, and
Mhm.
it was nice, but I liked going away with everybody. I
Mhm.
enjoyed that. People say, well, we lose family time. Okay, if you didn't want to do it, fine. But the team stuff is vital to recruitment. We are a
Yeah.
team based
Yeah.
business. And we've got to remember to really, really push that and encourage the team feel of it all. How can you get a new manager to think about the team when you sit them on their own and think about themselves? It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
I know. I'll give you a quick example of what we're doing as well, and it's like no monetary value whatsoever. But our whole company is going mental for every end of month meeting. We have 4 fish bowls, and for everything people do through the month, they get awarded fish. So it's like how many each of the teams and the fish they have at the end of the month. And it's amazing. It's like a house scheme, at schools,
Yeah,
or, Harry Potter,
house
in terms of
points. Yeah,
which, and it's really weird, but how, we've all got behind this, and it's coming up to Christmas. That's our end of our year. And we're all looking for, the, the
they're not,
number of
but they're
fish.
not real fish, are they?
No, they're
Are they those jelly
they're
things that you guys give out? Because they
the
are so
jellyfish. Yeah,
nice,
they
so
are
lovely.
back. We're back in production, baby, with our sweet fish.
Awesome. They
So
are one of the best
yeah,
sweets there is, and
it
you
is.
can't find them in
But I
shops.
think these are the things that you have fun with as teams, and we've got to get it back in. And mentoring that sort of top biller, real performer, because they are going to be individually focused, but bringing it back to that team unit, as you've been saying, I think is hugely valuable for next year. So, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. Listen, with because we could keep going on and chatting about these topics, because I
Sure.
love them. I love thinking about psychology of individuals, how to get the best out of people, and how to reward them as well. And I think we all could be taking some time out thinking more about that every month, every quarter, as leaders of businesses. But just going into somebody listening to us today and taking sort of like 3 tips as to what they should be thinking about right now about either, and let's make it into that sort of individual, to really sort of get them motivated for the year ahead and retaining them going forward, and anything in terms of a team that you think that they could be doing right now to plan for that.
Okay. 3 things. So the first thing is what we were talking about there about treating everyone as individuals.
Yeah.
Really do it. Think from their perspective. Think about how they look at the world and understand them. Once you can understand them, then you can adjust. But you need to be very flexible in your mindset around that. People are not you, and they're not working the way you do or the way you want them to. And I'd ignore the generational stuff here because I don't believe it it's certainly not as rigid as people make
Interesting.
it out to
Okay.
be. But I mean, that's a whole new conversation. But be
Yes.
flexible with that approach. The second is train and train and train
Okay.
your people. Don't forget, because that old expression of if we train them and they leave, what happens if we don't and they stay? Give them the tools that they need. At the moment, people need a lot of help and guidance especially in candidate sourcing. But they've been told to headhunt, and then no one teaches them how to do it. I mean, I'm doing so
Mm-hmm.
much headhunting training, but train people and give them the tools that they need for the job. And if you can't do it, phone somebody like me, preferably me, who
Yeah.
can help you do that.
Yeah.
But there's lots of good people about to help with that.
Yeah.
And the other is just encourage people, encourage them on an ongoing basis, and make sure you're appraising them and listening to them. Everybody has great ideas. We talk a lot about diversity. Diversity's great achievement is having different mindsets and different ways of thinking about things. So listen to their ideas. Some of them will be crazy, some of them will be amazing, and some of them will make a total difference to your business. So encourage people to talk about what they think and buy into that.
James, they're great. And I think that's the main key. If you don't have that expertise internally, there are lots of people out externally with those expertise to tap into for a particular thing. And the
Yeah,
knock on effect of how motivated somebody will be, and that you have made that effort to make that happen for them, is awesome.
yeah.
And, ultimately, that old phrase of success breeds success.
Mhm.
If you're sort of on a high pushing people forward, people will come with you. And I think
Yeah,
that's really the ethos that I think you and I had said that we wanted to leave everybody with today. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
so that's awesome.
if you haven't got people who can mentor internally, if you're too, if your business just isn't structured in that way,
Yeah,
then find somebody who can come in externally and be that person.
yeah,
But make sure they've got someone they can talk to and
yeah.
will help with them.
Awesome. And I think Andrew has put in the comments there as well. If you want to get hold of you, I think we've got your LinkedIn contact.
Great.
And I'm sure you're open to anybody sort of wanting to ask any questions or queries,
Yeah.
etc. today as well. So
Oh, please. So that Andrew's put up jamesnathan.com. The best website for recruitment is recruitingtowin.com,
yeah,
which is my specific recruitment training site. Um,
perfect.
but yeah, I would love to talk to anyone. And even if that's just to kind of give them an idea or some thoughts around what they might do rather than, some engaged training, then
Yeah.
with pleasure.
And I think you're the first crowdcast that the host actually disappeared then at the start. So apologies for that, but well
I,
done for
I did
continuing.
wonder for a moment if I was just talking to myself, which I do. I do a lot of.
So change of environment, you have hiccups. So I appreciate
Oh,
your
thank
resilience of being able to do that. And so James, thank you so much for joining us, and for
Wendy, thank
everybody in
you
the
for having me
audience,
back.
thank you for tuning in. In next month, so we're on a roll up to Christmas. I've got a good popular, well, I hope a popular guest. We've got Darren Westall from Pager, who's going to be joining us because Christmas is a great time to look at marketing and looking at different incentives and getting fun and creative with different things that we could be doing for our customers and maximizing our brand. So I wanted Darren to come on and chat to us on that. So that will be on, I think it's the 17th. Andrew can maybe give me the date of when. It's the 15th of December. That's it. On the 15th of December at 1 o'clock. And that will be our roll up to Christmas. So for everybody out there as well, I hope that the year has been going really well and you're looking forward to closing on a high. We've got a few more weeks before all the Christmas shenanigans start, which I think we're actually going to have Christmas parties this
Oh,
time.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah,
so.
same here. Fishmas at the hub is always
Yes.
phenomenal, so we'll be delighted to get back to that. But James, thank you so much, and for everybody tuning
Pleasure.
in, I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Wendy.
all.
Bye bye.